Good evening, everyone. Let me present my work for network in the Global World Conference, Prospects for Interest Groups Networks in the USA on the example of lobbying issues. In the first generation, network theories in the early 1990s, starting from the methodological premises of the corporatist and pluralistic approaches, political networks were considered as various forms of relations between the state and interest groups, formed on the basis of non-equilibrium, open and voluntarily interactions of many equal actors as aggregated groups and individual actors associated with common interests and resources. According to Rhodes and Marsh, developing as a middle range theory, mainly with the framework of Anglo-Saxon school, the concept of political networks include both a micro level of analysis, which determines the role of various interest groups and the state in specific political decisions, and a macro level, which allows to study the distribution of power in a modern polycentric society. The theoretical development of the concept of political network as a form of interactions between the state and interest groups is associated with its integration with a institutional approach, which solves the problems of structure versus agent based on the analysis. Network ties of actors in the form of separate interest groups and government agencies, the network components of the activities of the individual actors in which agents are leaders in the individual interest groups, and positions of actors and network relations between these positions, process characteristics for exchange of actors' resources, and structural characteristics of this interaction. One of the important scientific results of the evolution of theoretical principles of network approach associated with the conceptualization of the concept of political network is the creation of various topologies of political networks based on their structural and functional characteristics. The continuing diversity of the concept of political network and dynamic competition between them within the framework methodology testify to the empirical diversity of political networks that require, in each case, a specific definition that represents a variety of their main parameters. Summarizing the conventional definitions, we can distinguish the following parameters of political networks. Actors of political networks, individual, collective, organizational, are characterized by the properties, needs, abilities, interests, and resources of the subjects which form the basis for network interaction. Certain functions of participating actors are realized in political networks. Exchange of resources, access to political representation channels, discussion and coordination of actions otherwise independent of each other, negotiations, cooperation in development, implementation, and under certain conditions, in justification of actions. Structures in political networks are formed due to the irregularity in relations between network actors based on such structural variables as number of actors, the intensity of reciprocity of relations, closedness, openness to the outside world, intensity and strength of interaction, the nature of the interaction, conflict, competitive, cooperative, or formal, informal, or coordination of political networks, vertical, horizontal. Procedural rules that define interactions within political networks and form complex internal cultures focused on public or private interests. Power in political networks depends on available resources, services, possibilities, or refusal or conclusion of coalition. Actors can develop strategies for and within political networks. Thus, despite the existing differentiation of the terminological apparatus and the topological criteria of political networks, thanks to the first generation network theories at the turn of 1990 to early 2000, the political network has come to be seen as a complex of political actors inside and outside the political management system who are involved in the process of public policy development or have an interest in it and the relationships between them. This is a reorientation of network theory to the field of public administration and public policy as researchers began to pay attention to the fact that functionally similar political networks lead to quite different forms of governance and they result within the same political sphere. In the process, brokering the decision, making the other actors' interest groups build, use, and transform networks, In these networks, interest groups gather around specific issues that should be legally noted in lobbying reports. Lobbying reports require the registrant to list issue for which the registrant is lobbying on behalf of the client. This part of the report requires the organization to first select issue from a predefined list of general categories of issues. The Senate Office of Public Records uses 79 separate codes for general categories of issues, including, for example, aviation, banking, education, and immigration. Organizations should indicate the issue for which they lobby, both in registration forms and in activity reports. Using the Open Secrets database, data will be taken on the 10 most popular lobbying issues. The unit of measure will be the number of clients lobbying for the problem. Then the time series will be analyzed using Brown exponential smoothing method to determine further lobbying intensity over the next 5 years on these 10 issues using the SPSS statistical package. The figure shows the 10 most popular problems by the number of customers, and it's worth classifying that each client can report lobbying on several issues. It's noticeable that the greatest attention of all interest groups focused on the issue is federal budget and appropriations. On average, about 300 people organizations listed this problem in reports. It's followed by health issues, taxes, transport, defense, environment, education, insurance, trade, and labor, antitrust, and workforce issue. For each of them, exponential smoothing will be carried out. In the effort to create the most favored nation treatment for themselves, specific interest groups in the United States often resort to manipulating the budget process and the federal contract system. Since in the framework of many federal and not only programs, budgetary funds are distributed on the basis of mathematical formulas, the future contractor, even at the stage of program development, seeks to lobby for such a formula according to which he will be able to receive the largest amount of funding. One way to consolidate the benefits achieved is to change the budgeting method in order to reduce the share of the budget that can be changed. True, this technique is available only to the very powerful interest groups that are able to dictate conditions to the Office of Management and Budget. The most reliable way to get funds from the federal budget is to obtain the right to evaluate the quality of your work yourself. So, in July 2005, 3M Health Information Systems received a contract to evaluate the effectiveness of its own software as an operating system for Medicare, the National Health Insurance Program in the United States. It's not surprising that the company recognized its most reliable and effective software. Then, on the second place were two issues, health issues and taxes. The fact that apart from 2012 to 2019, they fought for second place after the federal budget and appropriation issue in 2012. Health issues came in second place, 1896 clients versus 1864. From 2013 to 2014, taxes 9033 and 9068 against 8073 and 9036. From 2015 to 2016, health issues 9071 and 9044 against 1884 and 8018. From 2017 to 2018, Texas 2590 and 2145 against 2117 and 215. And in 2019, again health issues, 2127 against 1873. The fourth place has steadily occupied that continues to occupy the issue of transport. On the fifth place from 2012 to 2018, at this place was the issue defense. However, in 2019, trade took its place. And here is an interesting dynamics. The fact is that in 2012, The trade issue occupied the 10th line among the issues that interested clients. However, already in the next year, she was able to overtake insurance and education in 2014, then environment in 2015, then energy in 2018 by the number of clients. And in 2019, trade took fifth place, overtaking defense 9, 1433 against 14.3. The sharp rise in the last 3 years can be explained by the new political course of Donald Trump and his relation with China. China is the large US largest trading partner and participant in US trade deficit and the most complex US trade relationship. China unprecedented economic growth has created significant US commercial opportunities, but US growth in role in economic activity is causing serious concern for unfair competition. The US is concerned about US cyber and other intellectual property theft, technology transfer practices, individual subsidies, and inadequate market access. The administration has introduced higher tariffs of $250 billion in Chinese imports to put pressure on China to change its policies. China responded with US export tariffs on $110 billion. Mark Zandi, the chief economist at Moody Analytics, calculated that from the third quarter of 2018 to the same quarter of 2019, the United States lost nearly half of percent of real GDP due to various Trump trade measures of $88 billion. He also claims that 340,000 jobs were lost as a result of trade wars due to a combination on inhibited investments and higher costs due to new import duties. The codification of lobbying problems for filling in the forms LD1DC and LD2DC and then their publications by the Senate Office of Public Records allowed us to see the scale of activity of various interest groups and to understand that some problems attract the attention of thousands of stakeholders annually. Even at the first glance, there is no direct connections between them. Lobby Step Up with a relevant and significant piece of legislation is active on the agenda of Congress on the executive branch. The agenda is constantly changing, but it's interesting to see which becomes relevant and which remains out of work. Not to mention that the fact that the next 5 years, the list of 10 most important issues for lobbying may not change. Thank you for your attention.